actually to be talking to everybody. I guess I can't really see you, but I know you're out there. And the first thing I need to do, I am so excited to say happy birthday to Brecky Johnson. So Brecky is Sarah Maddox Johnson's son. Sarah's one of my best friends in the world, and Brecky just turned 9 today. So happy birthday, Brecky. And I'm in the studio today with the producer extraordinaire, Skip. Skip, how are you today? He just wait.
I am good. I gotta take this off while I talk.
Yeah.
I'm super duper dandy dapper. You know that.
I just found that out. Why might you be super duper dandy?
Well, this station takes no political stance, but me personally, I am jumping with joy, and I just, my bladder is like really excited too because I'm so excited.
And you just can't hide it.
Well, hopefully I can.
So,
that won't come out.
I hope not. Yeah, please. I was
swimming for joy.
I was outside and along Broadway in Uptown. Everyone is cheering.
That is amazing.
It was really cool.
That's amazing.
I've never been a part of that, so that's
Somebody told me that they got a recording from Manhattan. And
yeah.
And everything was going crazy in Manhattan. So
yeah.
I think we're talking about Joe Biden winning. I don't think
we are, but the station's not.
The station has no political view.
And talk about
talk about everything, but me personally,
and me personally, I feel like we're going from victims to heroes. So we're starting our hero story, I think.
I'd like to say, America be united again.
I agree with that. Yes, and yes. So Skip, last night I was doing a run because it was probably one of the last runs I'm going to get to do because it's so beautiful here in Chicago. And I was listening to a podcast. I talked about Talk Out Loud last week with Jeff Miller and Anthony Navarro. Everyone knows I love this podcast, but last night I'm listening to their guest. Their guest was Seven Graham. And Seven is an intersex individual who used to be a TV director who hit rock bottom with their addiction, and went from victim to survivor hero, and is now an addictions counselor. And this it was just amazing discussion, and I thought about this station and kind of how one of the groups we serve is the LGBTQIA, and I realized I really didn't know a lot about the intersex story. So this podcast really opened my eyes, and it was really it was pretty amazing.
What did you learn from it? What did you learn, Bobby?
Yeah, I learned that, I think that the thing I could relate to is that all of us I think we're always trying to discover who we are, and that I could relate to something not feeling right inside of me, especially with my sexuality, and that I saw everyone was saying I should be one thing, and Seven was saying that when they were younger, that a doctor misdiagnosed and said that they had cancerous ovaries when actually they were testes, and they took them out. And so their life changed from that moment on.
Yeah.
And always feeling like just something's not right, and everyone's saying no. Let me phrase it. People telling me, no, you need to change because you need to be quote unquote normal or whatever. And it was just this moment of like, oh yeah. I think all of us can relate to those moments when we're feeling something different than than everybody else, and trying to stay in our truth and trying to stay centered in that. So, and also Seven had some amazing, just because being a survivor of addiction and a recovering person, Seven had some amazing things to say about their work as a counselor. So that was the big takeaways.
The name is Seven, like the numeral?
Yeah.
Okay.
7 Graham.
7 Graham.
Yeah. If you get a chance, check it out. This week, so I have a guest who I've known for actually a very long time. I met her when I was doing theater. And she was a director, and I got brought in at the last second to choreograph a show she was directing. There was some chaos with the choreographer, and then I was brought in, and I met this woman who I think I've only known her to say something negative maybe 2 times my entire life. She's one of the most happy people, and often is the person to reframe things. Now we work together at UIC, but this week, Amy Binns-Calvey, who is a director, author, performer, and research specialist, we're going to be looking at the difference between obligation and dedication. And each week with my guest, I do a pre-brief and I say, so what is it you want to talk about? And Amy brought up this idea of obligation versus dedication. And I, as a coach, I've thought of obligation as the have-tos versus want-tos. Very often, I try to move individuals from that, I feel like I have to do something to I want to do it. And she mentioned dedication. And I spent probably 4 or 5 days thinking about this, going, dedication? Really? Obligation versus dedication. And
I like that.
I actually had some really aha moments because of the suggestion.
Yeah.
And this whole idea, we're going to say something, I don't want to cut you off. So were you going to say something? You're just agreeing with me. Agreeing with my words of wisdom.
I like to say, like have to.
Yeah.
In recovery, I'm alive. I get to do
Right?
it. I get to do it.
Yeah, and reframing that.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it becomes a choice. And it becomes
Well,
a choice too.
That's exactly it. And that's, you see, you're much quicker than I am. That dedication.
Did I steal your thunder? I'm
No,
sorry.
not at all. We're all doing this together. It takes a village. No, but this idea of the quality of being dedicated or committed to a task was the definition of dedication. And then to your point, changing those want-tos into choosing to, like dedication, I'm choosing to be dedicated. Or you just said something else. What did you just say? Or...
I get to do it.
Get to do it, yes. And that dedication is, I get to be dedicated.
Yep.
And that can be in my jobs, my relationships. I think especially as someone in recovery and as an addict, I like extremes. And I like things that are very easy. And those things in my life that have brought me the most joy and I've felt the most reward from. There have been moments in that process where I didn't want to and I chose to continue. I was dedicated to the process. So I'm excited to chat with her about all of this. Plus just she's a really cool person. So you're going to like her a lot. Anything else that happened in your week that we need to discuss before? Listen, I'm flipping to Coach Bob here. Anything you want to discuss? Put on the spot.
What happened? Yeah, what happened? Well, in perspective, the station's changing.
I do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I got a month's rent paid this week, which was cool. So now we're only 4 months behind.
Yes.
But it's a matter, as last week, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Right. It's just too hard. And I don't have all the necessary tools to make this happen. I'm doing it alone as the new program director. And, but I am here. And it was, and in our conversation last week, we got to the point of, I get to do this. Right. I get to grow from that. I don't have to do it. Right. I can walk away and say, I'm not getting paid.
Right.
Right. We're not able to, I don't need to go into it, but I'm not able to have all the necessary tools at this moment. So, and I felt like I needed to walk away, but then it was like, no, I'm learning so much from this experience. And it's just like doing the show with you. It's like I'm finding my passion of like, mentoring and coaching people into their shows and producing the shows. And it's like,
yes,
I get to do this.
Yes.
So.
And you're definitely dedicated, which we thank you for.
Thank
Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
And as your new.
Thanks.
So on that note, what a great note. I love that. We're all here changing. Even those of us who are in the helping profession are always in the process of change and of growing. So pretty cool. On that note, we're going to take a small break so that we can get our guest ready to be on the radio and to chat with us. So you are listening to WGHC 98.3. Change happens here.
WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. Follow us at facebook.com/WGHC 98.3 FM to watch all of our live streams. iPhone users can download our WGHC 98.3 FM app in the App Store. All other users can download the TuneIn Radio app or visit tunein.com. You can also listen by phone. Dial 1-563-999-3221. Visit our website at www.wghcfm.org.
to Perfect Detours with Bob Kiser here on WGHC 98.3. And I'm back now to introduce my guest of the week, Amy Binns-Calvey. Amy Binns-Calvey is an author, director, performer, and research specialist. So Amy Binns-Calvey is the co-author of Flanagan's Wake, and this production has been everywhere, nationwide, including off-Broadway, Chicago, L.A., Detroit, and even, yes, Cleveland. It played in Cleveland. She also is a co-author of Roasting Chestnuts, which was with Noble Fool Theater, The Naked Show, and the Des Plaines River Anthology. She has also been lead or co-author in many articles published in the field of medical decision-making. Obviously, she has had a long and a big range of positions and jobs. So, as a performer, she was seen for years in the legendary cabaret group, The Weird Sisters. And she wanted me to say that when not at a desk, she can be found riding her American Quarter Horse Sugar or in her kayak. Now, the only thing she wants to figure out is if only she could find a way to get sugar in the kayak. So, without further ado, hi, Amy.
How are you? And nice to meet Skip. Hi, Skip. Oh, can you not hear me?
We are trying some new technology here at the station, and
so let me make sure.
I'm not able to hear Amy yet. So,
hi.
I will keep talking until we get Amy on. You can just interrupt me. But Amy and I met, as I said, many years ago. So great. So, Amy, I gave you the phone number to call in. So we're just going to ask you to call in.
Sure.
And we'll go from there. So she'll be calling in 1 second. But Amy and I, so we met a while ago. She was redoing the Mikado. And it was this very up-to-date, very modern version. And I walked in, and I was coming in after some issues with production. And Amy and I had basically 4 days to and let me know what the concept is and for me to choreograph the show and to work together. And it was such a pleasure. It was a very, it could have been very chaotic and very tumultuous. And Amy, being the person that she is, made it so easy. And she's a master of reframing things to looking for the opportunity in things. So, she's just perfect and amazing. And we are still working. I think she's calling in, and we'll get her on the.
She's calling you.
Oh, she's calling me. Okay, so can we take one more break, and we're going to figure everything out, and we'll be back with Amy Binns-Calvey.
WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. Follow us at facebook.com/WGHC 98.3 FM to watch all of our live streams. iPhone users can download our WGHC 98.3 FM app in the App Store. All other users can download the TuneIn Radio app or visit tunein.com. You can also listen by phone. Dial 1-563-999-3221. Visit our website at www.wghcfm.org. WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. Follow us at facebook.com/WGHC 98.3 FM to watch all of our live streams. iPhone users can download our WGHC 98.3 FM app in the App Store. All other users can download the TuneIn Radio app or visit tunein.com. You can also listen by phone. Dial 1-563-999-3221. Visit our website at www.wghcfm.org.
Hello.
Amy.
Sorry about that.
No worries. It's so good to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just did an introduction for you, which I feel like it really doesn't serve all of who you are. It's a snapshot.
I heard a lot of what you were saying, Bob, and in a way, I almost didn't want to call in because it was just great to hear you talk about me so much.
Oh my gosh, I could talk about you forever. I've actually learned so much from knowing you. So,
that's so sweet.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to dive into this. So, tell us more about your thoughts about obligation versus dedication. So, tell me about that.
Yeah. It's well, and you were sort of encapsulating it earlier when you were talking to Skip. It's making that decision. So there's a lot of things in life that are on our plate to do, and some of them we just have to do. And I found for myself, if I change it from, this is an obligation and it's a drag, to, no, I'm going to decide to do this. And once I make it my decision, and I dedicate myself to it, then it becomes so much easier to do. And then I'm able also to find, opportunities for growth and learning. And I think it just makes you more open to opportunities to learn more about yourself. And it's kind of on your theme of detours too. So you made a casual comment when I rejoined UIC, when I came back to UIC to work, that you felt like I really threw myself into projects, and that's because I have been developing the habit of, if I say I'm going to do something, I dedicate myself to that. And so once I do that, it's interesting the avenues that open up for more things that I didn't think that I would discover to do.
That's been my experience of you. that is a great, and I didn't even know that that's what you were doing, but that has been my experience of you. Fantastic. So wait a minute. So I talked about all this performing stuff, but then I said in the middle of it that you are a research specialist. So give us a little, summary of what has been your journey.
This is the kookiest story to get to research. So I come from a very strong theater background. My dad was in the theater. I grew up in the theater. We had a theater company downtown, the Noble Fool, for a while, which crashed and burned spectacularly during the economic downturn in 2008. And, I was like, oh, gosh, what am I going to do now? And, looking at auditions, and saw an audition to be a standardized patient at UIC, like so many people that we know now. And,
awesome. Let's say what that is real quick, so I'm not sure everyone knows. So
sure.
What's a standardized patient?
So that is, especially in areas like Chicago where there's a great resource of actors, it doesn't have to be an actor who takes this job, but someone portrays a patient in a situation, in a simulation, so that primarily medical students can practice their communication skills. A lot of people are familiar with that from, there was an episode on science, but I know you're making me, you're laughing. Because that's all everybody knows about standardized patients.
Portraying gonorrhea.
But it's a fascinating job to do, and you feel like you're providing a service for medical students. So there was an advertisement, and I thought, well, I'll try this out. And the project I auditioned for at UIC was a little bit different. Usually the standardized patients work within the center where it's a controlled environment, and everybody knows that the patient is simulating a condition. The project I was auditioning for was for a research project, and so it's sent the standardized patients into real life situations unannounced. So the doctors knew this was going on. They knew they were going to be visited by an actor. They didn't know when. And so it was a fascinating research project. We learned some really amazing things from it.
So like Secret Shopper type thing. Is that what it is?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly like a Secret Shopper. And then through that project, I ended up working very closely with the principal investigator of that project. And so then moving forward, when he started to work on new projects, he actually wrote me into his grants as at first a research assistant, and involved in doing a little bit more data analysis and collection of data, and participating more in the research end. And through that, have now become a research specialist at UIC, managing research projects as well as some other projects at UIC. But every time, and I also work on some research projects at the VA as a without compensation employee, and every time I walk into the VA with my research badge, it just makes me laugh so hard. It's like, how did theater bring me here?
How did I get here? Yes. Well, let's talk about that. So the detour from, and you glossed over this, but Noble Fool, what a cool theater that was. And so many cool things came out of that. Theater and the work that you and the rest of your team did, just amazing stuff. and then the detour to jump into SP work. So in that middle part, I was just describing how, and I think you are an expert at this, that's why I'm so excited to talk to you, is the reframing process. And how did you reframe, oh no, I'm the victim of all of this stuff falling apart, to I am a survivor, and I'm moving on into this new journey and choosing or dedicating yourself to this new journey?
I think it's sort of taking stock in the moment. In the moment, of course, you're grieving the loss of, of a dream, of something that you thought that,
right.
Was going to, be a certain way. And again, it's making a choice. It's like, okay, I can stay here and revel in this moment of being sad, or you can look around and see what are the other opportunities, what could be next. I have to say, two things inspired me at the time. So my daughter at the time was young. She was in elementary school. And she would talk to me about what she calls splatter vision.
What is
so,
that?
And
yeah.
she has, I know, she has some, so a little bit, she has some dyslexia. So reading is very difficult for her because she looks at a bigger picture. So what she calls splatter vision is you step back and you see the whole horizon. And so when I find myself really fixating on something, I try to think like, wait, what would be the splatter vision? And you stand back. So when the theater crashed and burned, then it was like, well, what other things could I be doing with my time? It's like this avenue ended. What are the other opportunities? And keeping that horizon open. And so it'd be like, oh, why don't I try this and see where that leads? And the second inspiration for myself is my father. My father, he passed away almost 10 years ago, but into his 80s, he continued to grow. So he would always be looking for, what's a new opportunity or what's something cool that I can do. He started prospecting when he was in his 70s. So he's been an inspiration for me as well, in that, if you're open and you keep your splatter vision going for what's on the horizon, there are a lot of avenues that you can follow that take you to surprising and wonderful places.
I love that splatter vision. I am definitely going to start using that. And I yes, just perfect. So it sounds like that in this situation, that it's all two things. It's kind of accepting the situation as is, and by doing that, letting go of expectations of what you thought it should be, because you said, that thought of, well, this is where I'm going, and now I'm not going there anymore. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that. But wait a minute. But that's what I wanted. That's where I was supposed to be. And so if you can let go of that, and then, and I think one great tool you just mentioned is that splatter vision. Maybe take a couple steps back, and then in that process start looking at, so what are the other opportunities? So.
And I have to say, being older as I am, the other thing that I realize is that you can also look at your past. Instead of looking at that as a failure, it's like, okay, I learned some great stuff from there, and that's broadening my base of knowledge and experience, and that might serve me somewhere else. Here I thought all of these skills I was building was only leading to running a theater company.
Right.
Well, how did I know that those skills led to research and, the really important work of medical education? And, so that's helpful too.
I love that. And what feelings did you have doing the theater versus what feelings do you have being a research assistant? Are there similarities or are there different feelings?
There are definitely, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. I think the similarity is what drew me to theater and still draws me to theater is, that you're communicating with other people. There's no feeling, there's no feeling like when you're with an audience and you're all experiencing a moment together. You're building that's why live theater is so powerful. You're building a community for that night. And so that feeling of communicating and sometimes communicating important things through the art of theater is so powerful. And I have to say that I find that in the work of research that's, it's a completely different audience, but it's still communicating with people about important things. And so trying to find that common thread. And, I think for me, just for me, the feeling of doing something that's impactful in the world, that's what I really love in theater, and I love that in the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah, I find that people I work with, that a common thread when they find their passion, there's usually an element of giving back, usually. So that I love that. What a great example of a detour that it's a perfect detour. And as we've already mentioned, or kind of mentioned, is that I work with Amy at UIC, and watching her in her element, it is just magical. So especially knowing both the theater Amy and then the research Amy. So it's a perfect example of a perfect detour. And with that in mind, I want to maybe go towards a different direction. And so Amy, I know that you are living with cancer. And and as we were doing our pre-brief this week, we were kind of talking about this idea of obligation versus dedication, and how does that? So tell me how that relates to living with cancer.
Yeah, I think, and then I want to explain a little bit. I have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I'm incredibly fortunate because it's a very slow-growing cancer. It's technically incurable, but it's the kind of cancer that, unless it transforms into something else, which some people it does happen, I will probably, as they say, I will die with it, not from it. So I'm incredibly fortunate. But I think, I think just being dedicated to it not derailing my life. So instead of seeing it as like, oh no, here's this burden that I now have. Everybody in their life is going to have something that's that they're going to have to deal with. It's not, it could be their health, it could be their finances. Everybody has something that is going to be a challenge, and so I don't want to define myself by the negative aspects of what a diagnosis like that could mean. And I wanted to, instead dedicate myself to like, okay, here's my new challenge. What is it that I can do to make this better? And how can I, how can I see any opportunities in this, as opposed to seeing it as, a dead end or someplace to get stuck. And that's what helps me get through it.
Wow. And what I also heard, and we were talking about this earlier, is this being a victim of it versus kind of leaning into your hero or survivor story. So, wow.
Yeah, it's way too easy. And when I first got the diagnosis, it was very tempting, and I did for a little while. It's very easy to, and I don't want to sound judgmental because I know everybody's going to deal with something like this in a different way, but it would have been very easy for me to wallow in this. Yeah. It would have been very easy for me to be like, oh no, now this has changed everything. And in the same way when the theater company closed, here's what I pictured was going to be the future. Right. And now I had to deal with this. And it's a little bit tough with non-Hodgkin's in that it's incurable. So it's like, oh no, for the rest of my life now, this is part of my life. And I would have been very tempting to stay there, and instead to be like, okay, so now this is just something I'm carrying along with me, and yeah, it might change some things that I have to do, but so then now what can I do? What other things can I do along with this? Now I'm just incorporating this into my life story, and yeah, trying not to get stuck in that one particular place.
And my observation of you is you've really embraced the changes that you made due to living with this cancer. Watching you, especially with your dedication now to exercise and to diet and all that kind of stuff. So, at least that's been my experience. Is that your experience that you've embraced it, or is it, okay?
Yeah, and it helps to feel. It feels great to feel like there's something I can do. It's like, okay, I can change my diet. I can, exercise more, which only makes me feel better in the long run, besides the diagnosis.
And I think you mentioned about the whole, wallowing and the victim mindset. And I do want to point out to listeners that I think this is a very valuable stage of the process, and that I definitely don't believe that people should not wallow, should not be victims. I think the issue is when we get stuck there. I listened to a great speaker one time, and this speaker was talking about how she had all these things happen to her, and all these people were like, get back on the horse, keep going. And she's like, give me a minute. I just had these 3 deaths. I just had all this stuff. Give me a minute. I will get back on the horse, but give me a minute. And that, I've really embraced that, as in, take that weekend, take that, whatever it is, and it's that acceptance process, I think, in order to get to, okay, I've accepted it. Now what can I do? Because acceptance does not mean that we think something's different. We accept things as is, and then it gives us the freedom to make the next choices. So, you have to honor those feelings for sure. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But like you said, it's a little bit too tempting to get stuck there. That can be a comfortable place if you stay there too long. Yeah, and that's where community really helps, at least in my experience. The community that I'm a part of with my recovery or whatever I've gone through, are fellow travelers on this journey I'm on, and they can relate to what I'm saying, and then also say, okay, now come on, let's take that next step, and we'll help you. So yeah.
Well, and I know we talked about that. We might touch on this, but my horse Sugar.
I was just going to ask about Sugar.
So that helped. So my daughter gave me her horse. And I did not start riding horses until I was in my 50s. And having a horse and a diagnosis like this the horse has been so incredibly therapeutic. And I like to think, I think it's because, cancer can be, it can be a very big, scary, unpredictable thing.
Yes.
And so can a horse. And so...
Wait a minute. Stop. Wait, a horse can be? Because to me, horses... I know nothing about horses, I'll be honest, but they look pretty nice to me. So tell me about the temperament of a horse.
So horses are prey animals. And so that is why horses are easily startled. So they are constantly on the alert for something to attack them. So they can be unpredictable. So you can have... Sugar is a great example. Sugar is a really great horse, but if a white plastic bag gets near her, she becomes very frightened.
I'm sure.
And so that can be very unpredictable. And she's big. She's not quite 10 times my size, but maybe 8 or 9 times my size. And so if she gets scared and she wants to, get out of the way, and I happen to be standing there, I'm going to lose.
Right.
And cancer is like that. Cancer can seem overwhelming and unpredictable. And I found that dealing with the horse, when I'm riding the horse and working on, if I sometimes would be very afraid if we're riding somewhere and something unpredictable happens and she starts to react, I find that learning how to work through those fears, being calm. And the other thing about a horse is, so they're prey animals and they're herd animals. And so they have incredible communication skills with other animals. So if I'm afraid, she picks up on it right away and she becomes afraid.
Oh, wow.
And so if I am calm, she is calm. And so, and I'm sure you said, the phrase fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
So for a long time when I first started riding, I had to fake being calm. and I'd have to fake being calm with my body and my breathing. And then eventually it's like, oh, I am calm.
Right.
So Sugar is, she is like, a living biofeedback machine. I have to be calm around her.
I love it. And let's talk a little bit about your daughter, who and what she does. This is so cool.
Yeah. So she, as I mentioned, when she was little, she has dyslexia, and when she was little, she was one of those girls, horse. And we're not horse people. I am now, but we weren't at the time. And so we took her out for a horseback riding lesson, and she was 8, and the moment she sat on a horse, it's like, oh no, that's who you are. completely good. So we kept waiting for her to grow out of it. She didn't. We told her she couldn't have a horse. She bought her own horse. We told her she couldn't take a horse to college. She found the only college where she had to bring a horse to the program she wanted to be involved in. So she now has a degree. She found the only college that I think of in the whole world where you can major in natural horsemanship, which is basically horse whispering. And then she had a double major with psychology as well. And what she wants to go into is equine-assisted therapy. So they do this quite a bit with guys with PTSD. Sure. She's very interested in working with women that have had, maybe sexual trauma or abuse. When she gets her master's, that's what she wants to go into. But right now, she is training horses out in California. And so she has some great, I'm encouraging her to write a book. She has some great insight into the parallels between somebody who's dealing with trauma and training a horse. Because, as we talked about, horses are very reactive, and they can be very frightened of things, as you are when you're going through trauma. And so learning how to help a horse work through trauma also helps her develop things to work people through trauma.
Wow. Yeah, some of the stories you told me about Miranda, it's just incredible. So, and I love the some people just seem to know what they're meant to be doing, so at a young age. I think
but I'm going to make sure she's prepared for Detours, Bob, in case it doesn't work out.
Right. Well, or Detours, or the addition to. I think both of us, like theater was, my drive and my passion, and then now in simulation and also in coaching and things like that I use my theater all the time. So, it all works out. It all works out, right? So. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on currently, because I know you have some projects. So you were saying, actually, I guess this isn't a current project, but this is a blog that you did regarding your cancer journey. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So I was very fortunate in the Chicago area that there are so many just top-notch medical centers like UIC. And when I first got diagnosed, I looked, because I work in research, I knew that if you're interested in participating in a clinical trial, that you can look on what's called clinicaltrials.gov. So I went and I researched available research projects, and there was a clinical trial for a brand new drug that was available here in Chicago to participate in. So I was one of, I think the total cohort was 29 people nationwide in this study for this new drug.
Oh, wow. And
as I went through it, I wrote a blog. I haven't updated the blog in forever, but it's A is for Amy.net, and I should totally update it. I haven't updated because things, knock on wood, are going well. There's nothing interesting to report, but it was a very interesting experience to be a participant in a clinical trial, to be on a medication that no one else had been on before. In this way was very interesting. So that's what the blog is about.
I'm sure it is, and it sounds like that you do. The story is continuing because you quote unquote don't have anything interesting to share. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
I'll take it.
A is for Amy.net, all one word, correct?
Correct.
And you just mentioned a website for people who might, if they're looking for clinical trials. Did you say it's clinicaltrial.gov? Yes,
clinicaltrials.gov. And it's a great it's a great resource. It might be a little overwhelming when you first start, but you can type in, what your condition is, where you live. If you're looking for a research study that's currently recruiting, it's a great resource. I don't think a lot of people know to use it.
Good. Well, everyone listening now does. So, and lastly, and I'm actually I think I'm maybe a third to halfway through this, but you wrote a book which you're now shopping to agents. Do you want to give a little plug for this? And any literary agents who are listening, contact Amy if you have interest. But what book is this?
Oh, you're the best, Bob. Thank you. Yes, I'm looking for an agent.
It's a great book.
Oh, thank you. It's a story of a woman who was previously very religious, and she loses her religion and then accidentally begins performing miracles. So that's the plot of the book.
Yes.
In a nutshell. And you can contact the radio station to find me, or however you want to
yes.
get a hold of Bob.
Contact me. We'll connect
I'll let anybody read it at this point.
I'll connect you. Yeah, it's great. It's I definitely, when Amy told me about it, I was like, I've got to read this. I can totally relate to that. I was, in my younger years, I knew exactly who God was. I knew exactly all that stuff, and things were not working out too well. I still bottomed out on my drugs and everything, and only when I was ready to let go of all of that did I actually start getting the miracles of recovery and all that kind of good stuff. So definitely have a higher power, but the thought of a structured religion for me, I had to kind of let go of that in order to find my higher power. So
good.
Yes, so good. Amy, our time is coming to a close. I am so grateful that you took the time to share with us a little bit of your story. And I just have to say, this is a little bit like Amy Binns-Calvey. She has a story. And actually, you'd have probably 3 or 4 sequels if I really dove into everything. So, but again, I really appreciate you sharing with us kind of your process on reframing those detours in our lives. Any last thoughts or comments you have?
I just want to thank you, Bob. This is such a great show, and it's such important topics, and it's so nice to really spend time thinking about these issues that everybody deals with. And so right. I know that you are so good at helping people, and it's just great to see you expand your audience like this.
You are so kind. And I feel like I actually am the one thanking everybody listening. And because this, to your point, this is a community. We're all here to help each other, and we're all here to help each other become the hero of our stories. So that was very, very structured, but I do believe it. So anyway, Amy Binns-Calvey, thank you so much for joining us. And to our listeners, we're going to take a short break, and then I'll be back with some final thoughts. But you're listening to WGHC 98.3. Change happens here.
You're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM. This is Skip Sams, and I am your program director here at WGHC. And we are very, very, very happy you are here. And we are going through some changes, as we talked about a little bit. And I am looking for you. Yes, I am. That sounds kind of creepy, doesn't it? It does. I am looking for people who have aspirations to be of service to the community. If you have an idea for a show that you would like to bring and it's of great service to the community, email me at programdirector@wghcradio.org. That's programdirector@wghcradio.org. And we are also accepting sponsors. We love sponsors. And I have put together some media packages that are absolutely amazing. And I would like to share those with you. Just a little hint, if you are able to make a donation to sponsor us for a month, I have put together a package that will provide you with social media video and recordings and so forth for a fraction of what it would be for a commercial price. So, program director at WGHCradio.org. Back to you, Bob.
Thanks, Skip. We just finished talking with our guest, Amy Binns-Calvey, and talking about the idea of obligation versus dedication. Again, the idea of obligation, per the dictionary, an act or course of action to which a person is morally or legally bound, a duty or commitment. Just reading that, I'm like, ugh. Compared to dedication, where someone chooses or dedicates themselves to a task or purpose, and the idea of how to maybe reframe those things that we have to and choosing to do or changing them into want tos. So, yeah, I love the conversation with Amy, and a couple things I just took away from her was that idea of the splatter vision, that when you are getting overwhelmed, take a step back and look at the big picture. And that in order to, when you are ready to move from victimhood into your survivor story or your hero story, is just accepting the situation you're in and then letting go of the expectations of what was supposed to be and look forward to the opportunities of what's going to be. So with this, over the next weeks, months, we'll be talking about this hero story, the survivor story. And one of the greatest gifts, one of the greatest tools we have to help people, I believe, is to share our survivor stories with them. There have been literally thousands of people who shared theirs and keep sharing their stories with me that have been the catalyst for my survivor story. To me, sharing my story is the price I am happy to pay for the gift of shifting my perspective from victim to survivor. And that this work, it is really hard and almost impossible to do by yourself. That is why the idea of community and listening to programs like this or other people, these self-help programs, it helps us shift that perspective. I think we're all saying kind of the same stuff. It's just maybe being at the right place at the right time to hear what you need to hear right now. And then also, when you start having your shift, is to share your story. And over the next coming weeks, years if we're blessed, I will be asking people to call in and share their survivor stories and their hero stories. I also want to say that in that victim place, and let me be very clear, I'm talking about myself, that when I've been in this victim place, that I've had some really, really dark times, which included suicidal thoughts and feeling like there was no way out. And if anyone out there listening is feeling like that, I want to say that just with my own story, that was not accurate. That feeling at that time was not an accurate feeling, though it was very overwhelming and felt very true at that time. Someone told me that to be really careful about contemplating a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and that was my experience. That if anyone here is having suicidal thoughts or feeling like they just can't go on or they're too overwhelmed to move forward, there is a phone number. Please call 1-800-273-8255. Again, 800-273-8255. There are people out there to help you. That victim story, I felt like I should be able to get out of it. I felt like I should not feel this way, and that was inaccurate too. There are people out there who can help you move to that next step, and we're all here to help each other. So just making sure that we put that out there. As I'm closing the show, I want to say a huge thank you to, again, the producer extraordinaire, Skip Sams, for producing the show, and to our amazing guest, Amy Binns-Calvey. You can check me out on my Facebook page, which is Bob Kiser, in parentheses, Bobby Wentz, which was my pre-adopted name. If you've heard any of my shows before, you'll know that I was adopted when I was 15, so both those names are on there, so people that know Bob Kiser can find me, but also people who know me as Bobby Wentz can find me. You can see me on Instagram at Bob Kiser Coach and Twitter at Bob Kiser Coach. My website is bobkisercoaching.com. At any of these locations, you can definitely message me. I adore people messaging me, sharing with me their stories, or even starting a conversation. And with that in mind, just reminding everyone that you can listen to this show every week. We are changing times next week. We are changing from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So 12 p.m. Central Time, Chicago time. You can listen on the radio, obviously at WGHC 98.3, or you can listen online on our website and just click that live button and you'll be able to listen to us live. Anyway, it's been a pleasure being here. I look forward to chatting next week. And until then, embrace those hero stories.
WGHC 98.3 FM.